have you ever been in that moment where you're in that rut where you know some things about you and you're like, yeah, I probably should do this, but I'm not because I'm comfortable in this rut. Even though I don't like it, it's known. Therefore, I'm going to stay here. Welcome to the Bears and Lions podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Vaught, and this is the podcast where we challenge our present by viewing our past. I'm a firm believer that our greatest future always will lie within the correct view of our past. Because when we actually look at our past with some perspective, we see that, yeah, we've gone through some crazy things. We see that there's a lot of different moments of joy and sadness and trauma and drama and things that we have to be able to process. But when we look at it with that perspective, we see that we're stronger than we know. We see that we're more prepared than we could ever imagine. That is the whole process of creating a resume. It's looking back at what you've done. And I want us to be able to do that together. And I want to do that because as you look back and you set that resume up and all the things that you've been able to accomplish, you're able to take strides and steps into the future with a positive and a influential mentality that you know that you can handle this because you have been prepared for it. And in today's conversation, I want to convince you to stop what you're doing and quit. That's right. I want you to stop what you're doing and quit. As I kind of have been thinking about some things, this week has been a really, really hard week. I feel like I've kind of gotten into a rut. I've been in ruts so many times, and maybe you're like me, where you had this great rhythm going, or you had this discipline going, and then you just kind of found this rut where it just kind of derailed you a little bit, and you've kind of found the grooves, and you can't quite get out of it. And that's exactly where I've been at over these last few days. And as I've been thinking, like, okay, so what did I do last time I was in a rut? What were some of the things that helped me get out of a rut? What are some of the other things that I've learned from other people who have helped me out of ruts? And it just took me back to all these memories in the past. So we're going to go back just a couple years ago. I was in this really deep depression and I was in a rut and I was at a low point in my life. I had some incredible friends at the time too. And they came into my life and really just impacted me during that time. And I really appreciated them because they saw that I was in a rut and they tried to help me. They really did. And so they would come alongside me and they would say things like, you're doing great, keep going. You're doing the best you can, all valuable, encouraging words, right? You would think that is exactly the type of things that would help me. And my friends meant well. I mean, they really did. They meant well, and I appreciate them. And they did what any friend would do, right? They would try to cheer me up with positive reinforcement. And that's usually what we encourage, right? That's usually what you see all over social media. I am a little bit different, and I don't know if it's just me. Maybe it's you as well, where you respond to positive reinforcement and you like it because it's like, oh, yay. But it's not always what you need. And it's a hard pill to swallow, but I actually didn't need anybody to tell me that I was doing a great job. Because was I doing a great job? I might have been doing a great job in certain avenues of my life, but not an overall great job. Was I doing the best I could? 100% not. I was absolutely not doing the best I could. I was drinking too much. I was eating completely unhealthy. My sleep schedule was abysmal. I was treating my body like a trash can, essentially. And it was just impacting everything about me, right? Because what you intake will eventually come out of you in different ways. And so one of the things that I really look back and realize is how much cortisol was in my system at that time. Cortisol is a natural chemical that your body creates. And if you want to look it up, I encourage each and every one of you to look up cortisol and the effects and the impact that it has on the body. But drinking has a huge impact with cortisol, and it's this stress-inducing hormone that our body produces. So I was just overstressed, overwhelmed, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually as well. I just was not focused on the things that I normally would be focused on. And I didn't need that positive reinforcement. I needed somebody to tell me, quit. Stop that. Stop being so down on yourself as if it's not your fault. It was not my friend's fault for me staying up until 3 in the morning, not doing anything productive. It wasn't like I was grinding something where I was like inspired to stay up. It was literally, I wasn't working on the things that I should have been working on. So then I would sleep all day. Then I'd wake up, miss half the day. Then I would feel bad because I felt like I should be waking up earlier, right? Like, have you ever been in that moment where you're in that rut where you know some things about you and you're like, yeah, I probably should do this, but I'm not because I'm comfortable in this rut, even though I don't like it. It's known. Therefore, I'm going to stay here. And I think that most people know what they should be doing. But I think if you were to dig deeper, they honestly just want to find an easier way to get what they want. But then even if they get what they want, they're going to lack the discipline to keep what they've always desired because they don't have that mentality that has built along the way. And it's a really hard pill to swallow, and it's hard to hear this. And so if you are in a rut, and if you are somebody like me who over these past few days, I hit snooze for the first time in like 3 months. Saturday and Sunday, I hit snooze both days. I haven't done that in like 3 months. I was just in this rut of just mental, I don't know what I'm doing next, and I'm doing a lot of really cool things. We just released a new guest session podcast with an incredible interview with so many incredible insights from Queen Manda. You should listen to that. It's the last episode, episode 21. We've got so many different things that I'm working on as well for the podcast, and I am being productive. But I was kind of in this just mental rut of like, there's a lot going on outside of podcasts and life and relationships and friendships and stuff like that I'm like, I need to rest. The reality is I did snooze, and I'm glad that I rested, but we've got to get back to work. Tomorrow we're back to work. It doesn't matter what I like, or it doesn't matter what I want, because what I actually want is greater than these decisions here. And you have to quit waiting for somebody to save you, right? It's such a hard pill to swallow because your life is your responsibility, period. The end. It's not anybody else's responsibility. It's your life. It's your responsibility, right? And there may have been a lot of circumstances that were not your fault. And I'm so sorry. I've had a couple of moments in my life where it wasn't my fault, but those circumstances were passed on to me. And therefore, I had to own them because I'm the one dealing with them. Because you have them now, and nobody's coming to change them. Nobody's going to say, "Oh, I'm sorry. That's not your responsibility. I'm sorry for that circumstance that's on you. I'm going to take that away." It's just not how life works, right? There are just things that happen throughout life, and it's unfortunate. But the sooner we're able to quit blaming other people, the sooner we're able to quit complaining about those circumstances, that is when you're able to take control of what you can take control of. I was listening to a podcast, and I'm a big fan of Alex Hormozi. You've probably seen him around social media. He's absolutely an incredible entrepreneur, and somebody who I have learned so much from in such a short amount of time, because I've just been introduced to him this year. But it's really cool to just listen to his podcast, read his books. And I was listening to a conversation with him and Ed Mylett on the Ed Mylett Show, his podcast. And this is something that Alex Hormozi said, and it's just, it triggered in my mind, and I love it. The first 2 words of getting out of poverty is my fault. And it doesn't actually matter if it is your fault, but it's your problem. And you have to solve it because no one else will. And I 100% agree with that. There are things in life that we just, it's not our fault, but it is our fault because it's our life. And maybe you've gone through a really ugly breakup. Maybe you've gone through a really ugly divorce. Maybe you've dropped out of school, or maybe you lost a job, or maybe you got kicked out of a apartment complex or your friend group or whatever that might have been. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't wish that on anybody, but now it is a problem that you have, and it is a problem that you have to deal with, and you don't get to take it out on other people, and you don't get to blame other people because it wasn't their fault. And although it's not something that you may have been able to control, right? I know a lot of people who have gone through some really rough things. And I lived in Louisiana post Katrina. And I remember just talking to people where it was like, hey, you lost your home. And they were like, yeah, but we rebuilt. That was their mentality. We rebuilt. It was our responsibility. This is our home. We rebuilt it. And if you go down to South Louisiana, there's still some areas that you can see the devastation of Hurricane Katrina a decade later. But you can see where people have just rebuilt, and the people of Louisiana are resilient. And it's incredible the way that they rebuilt that. And it's something that I am so thankful that I got to experience that culture and being down in that state for a short period of my life, is because I did learn so much and I gleaned from it, right? Diamonds are made from extreme pressure. Wine is made by grapes being absolutely crushed. And if we want our lives to become something of value, then we have to be willing to go through what it takes to become valuable. I think it's so important that we quit blaming everyone else and everything around us, all the circumstantial things. Oh, if I had this job, or if I had this career, or if I had this opportunity or this car or this spouse, it would be different. When the reality is if you just did the thing, right? If you did the thing that you wanted, that you knew this is what you wanted to do, you'd be 10 times further on your way to where you want to be. But we procrastinate. And we look for an easier way. And we don't want to deal with the people, or we don't want to deal with the circumstances. And it's easier to stay in that rut because at least this is known. There's no failure in the rut because you just exist there. And I want to encourage you today to quit whatever you're telling yourself. I don't know the next step. Quit telling yourself you don't know the next step. It's like, how many times do you have to hear yourself say, I need to wake up in the morning. I need to go to bed earlier. I need to eat healthier. I need to get back into the gym. I need to read more. I need to spend less time in front of a screen. How many times are you going to tell yourself the right thing to do and then not do it? And you have to get to this point where you quit saying all those things and just do it. So yes, that is what this podcast is about today, is quit. I want you to quit telling yourself all of the lies that you are telling yourself, that you don't know the right thing, you don't know the next move, that you don't know how to become more disciplined. I bet if you just started doing something, just one thing, whether it was set your alarm and promise that you won't hit snooze and then just do it. If you set one thing of discipline that you just were going to do, regardless, I'm setting aside 15 minutes every day and I'm going to read. Doesn't even matter what it is. You could read the funnies in the paper. You could read a crossword puzzle. You could read a periodic. I don't even care what you read, but if you want to get better at reading, or if you want to get better at communicating, then you need to set that discipline in motion, because you are not going to just magically learn something that you're not currently good at. If you are not currently good at playing the piano, you are not just one day going to wake up and be a good pianist. It's going to take the first steps of learning the keys and learning the stroke, and then learning the different chords, or learning the different hand placements, learning to read music. There's so much involved in it. And I think so many people, they want that later point, or that later portion, right? They want that later spot of where, oh, they know exactly what to do. Oh, they're successful at business. Oh, they did this, this, and this. I know so many people who, through college, took every opportunity. And there's somebody I hope we can get on the podcast. Is there one of my best friends? We used to ride the bus together, and we had these most in-depth 5-minute conversations every Tuesday and Thursday riding the bus from one building to the next building at school. And I watched as she took every opportunity she could to hone her craft and hone her skills in college. So when she graduated college, guess what? She was far above and far beyond a lot of the other people. Not because she was just more experienced. It's because she just never said no. And she would not allow herself to miss those opportunities. She just did them. And her practice was what made her better. She may not have been as talented, but her work ethic got her there. And I think that's what's so incredible is hard work will beat talent that doesn't work hard. And it's so important that we quit saying we're going to do things, quit procrastinating on the right thing to do, quit telling ourselves, yeah, I'll do that later. You're going to waste so much time and so many years. And I say this as an older person in their 30s who wasted so much time where if I had just started, I know I would be in a different spot. But I'm glad that I'm where I'm at now is because I feel like there is a timing side where I did a lot of really cool other things. And getting here was actually a different path that I ever thought I was going to eventually get to. And I kind of traveled around and I got to experience a lot of things because I did it. I did a bunch of things in business. I did a bunch of things in sports broadcasting. I did a bunch of really cool things. I went back to school. I did some really cool things during COVID. I worked at a roofing company and I learned to trade. There are things that I've done that I think are just incredible, but a lot of it comes down to I just did it. Somebody said, hey, you want to move to Louisiana? Yeah. I moved to Louisiana with 2.5, 3 weeks of preparation. That was it. When I was 18, I moved 7 hours away from my family within 2 weeks without even telling my parents. I went and interviewed for a job for a weekend, came back and was like, by the way, I'm moving in 2 weeks. It was amazing. I lived out of my car for a night. I had some incredible friends that I met really randomly. That'll be a story for another conversation because that honestly is one of the reasons why I am so passionate about helping people see that their past has prepared them. Because there were some moments when I lived in South Georgia that prepared me for the future that I cannot even explain to you. I'll just have to share the story in one of the podcasts in the future. That is going to do it for this conversation, though. If you are looking for some way of getting out of a rut, quit blaming everything else around you. Just do what you've told yourself is the right thing to do. If you need to wake up earlier, just wake up earlier. If you need to go to bed earlier, go to bed earlier. Set an alarm clock for your bedtime. If you need to get back in the gym, start where you can. Start what you can. Do everything you can with what you've got, where you are, and however you may do it. I know that you are prepared for this. I know you can handle this. I'm not saying this as a rude person and saying, yeah, you just need to stop complaining. No, I understand and I've been there. You need to step forward because you are strong enough to step forward. I promise you this. If you want to follow me on my socials, please hit me up on X. That's at Kyle Vaught, V as in Victor, ATT. If you want to follow me on Instagram, that's at Kyle_Vaught, V as in Victor, ATT. You can find me on YouTube. If you're watching from YouTube, make sure that you hit that like and subscribe button. You can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. So if you just want to listen while you're getting ready for work or driving to work or driving to the gym or wherever you may be going, class, etc. in the morning, we release these podcasts every single Monday and Thursday, 7 a.m. Eastern time. And I hope that you will be encouraged. As always, everybody, there's so much going on. I'm like really excited about the future. Even though I'm in this little mental rut, we're going to get out of it quickly. Everybody, I hope that you will have a wonderful, wonderful week. Remember to give grace, show love, and as always, stay stellar. Peace.